Okay. So, hello and welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining in. And we're starting tonight to look at the details of the warm-up exercises. So we're starting with the first warm-up, which is the breath regulator. And the breath regulator is meant to help us regulate our breathing, but also to coordinate the moving of the body and the breathing. So we want to try and take slow breaths and breathe in time with the movements. So to help breathe slowly, very important that we have the stomach tucked in slightly, and we are breathing into the top part of the lungs, in the chest, but also into the upper back. So when we breathe in, you should actually feel the rib cage expanding also to the sides, but we're not doing diaphragm breathing. Diaphragm breathing is like using the diaphragm as a bellows, but that sort of breathing is more like a relaxation breathing. The Tai Chi breathing is supposed to be an energy generating breathing. So it's a different mechanism. So we're just breathing into the top of the lungs all the way around. And to help achieve that, we keep the stomach tucked in slightly. Very important also, so we keep that tucked in, and actually the feeling is that you're gently pushing the stomach towards the spine, and this should also make your tailbone tuck in slightly. We do a lot of movement where the knees are bending up and down, and it's very important to try to keep the tailbone sinking down and not sticking the tailbone out. If we can keep the tailbone sinking down, actually this allows for a lot more flexibility in the spine, and it moves the weight of the body down into the legs where it's supposed to be. So first of all, just looking at the legs. So when we start off with this exercise, we start with the feet together. And now, if it's not comfortable with your feet together, you can have a bit of gap between your feet, but try and have the feet parallel. Well, we don't want the toes pointing out with this one. And when we start off upright, but when we do sink down, we want to actually point the knees out slightly. As we bend the knees, we want the knees to open out to one fist width in between the knees. All right, so that gives you an idea. And this helps to accommodate the tailbones tucking in. If you keep your knees together, you'll find your tailbone wants to point out. But if the knees open and point out diagonally just a little bit, that allows the tailbone to sink down very comfortably. And we want to have the feeling, and you can try this yourself, we'll do this now, just try and have the feeling of the weight sinking down into the thigh muscles. So the thigh muscles should engage. So it's the feeling here. And you'll find you have to do this quite consciously until it becomes a habit, because it's not really a natural thing for us to do, or it might feel unnatural. And in fact, a lot of people will really resist this movement for some reason. I'm not sure why, but it's very, very common that people will keep the knees together and they'll point the tailbone out. But that is it's not really the correct way to do it, and you don't get the benefit. So if we do it the correct way, then actually the leg muscles will strengthen, which is one of the major benefits of doing Tai Chi. So that's the theory. And so that's what's happening with the feet and the legs. Now the hands and the arms, and as you probably already know, I've mentioned this many times, we keep the hands in a curved position. It's like we're holding on to a sphere with each hand, and we actually have a feeling of gently gripping. And this should have the effect of um, uh, creating a little bit of tension in the hands. We're not locking the fingers, but just a little bit of tension. And it's supposed to allow all the joints to open up. So we want to open all the joints, starting with the knuckles, and allow that to spread through the rest of the hand, rest of the arms, including the wrists, so that the joints open, the elbows open, and the shoulder opens. And to really get the right feeling, we need to imagine actually that we're moving through a thick liquid. So we actually have to put some sort of force into the movement. We're not just sort of lifting the arms with no effort. There's supposed to be this internal pushing, and the pushing comes from the stomach area. And I'll try and explain it, but actually we're sort of push from here with a little bit of force. And the first movement is with the palms facing down. We're leading with the back of the wrist. And then we roll the palms. For the second part, as we bend the knees, open the knees, and we're sinking down. And we have to try and have a feeling of pulling something down with the hands, something heavy. And then the third part is that we lift the hands again from here, try and push from here, and imagine lifting something heavy. The hands come up over the head, and then again pushing down. Imagine there's a thick liquid that we're pushing our hands through the liquid, and sort of like having to force our hands through the liquid, if that makes sense. So now these principles apply to all of the movements. So we won't have to go through all these details with every movement, but these are really the fundamental basic principles that apply to all the forms. So let's give that a go and pay particular attention to the feeling of having to push our hands through the air. So we'll do the movement 3 times, and just checking again, we've got feet parallel. Just try and get myself in camera, fully in camera here, and so hands curved, and we touch the thighs with the fingertips just to locate the hands. And the middle finger should line up with the center of the leg, and that helps us to straighten up. And we'll start with an out breath, so we want to have empty lungs. And then with the stomach tucked in, slowly lift the arms, slowly breathing in, using a bit of force, internal force. Then roll the palms up, and we pull down with the hands, breathing out, and then lifting, breathing in, using the force, the internal force, and then breathing out as we push down again. So this feeling of using the internal force also helps us to slow down and to get a smooth movement. Palms up and down. Breathe in, lifting up. And push down, breathe out. Stomach tucked in, helping to slow the breathing down. Breathe in again. A gentle force with all the movements. And breathe in and out. Okay, so any questions about that movement? So pretty clear?
We're going breathless.
Breathless. Yes. Well, the timing of the movement is actually according to your own breath. So if you, when you're practicing at home, you can do the movement a bit faster. I try and do it in sort of an average speed in the class, maybe a bit slow for some people. But are you able to get that feeling of using that a bit of internal force, a bit of internal power?
Yeah.
Excellent. I can see a couple of people there having a little play around with that. Excellent. Yep, that's good. That's good. Okay, so now we'll go on to the next form, which is the swinging arms. This one is pretty straightforward, but we have the same sort of stance. So the stomach is tucked in slightly. We start in the horse stance, which is we have a bit of bend in the knees. And imagine we're sitting on a horse with the tailbone tucked in slightly. And don't tuck it in too far, so we shouldn't be leaning back. The spine should be upright. But definitely make sure you're not poking the tailbone out. You want to sink it down and feel the weight sinking down into the thighs. If you've got tired legs, just rise up and have a rest. You should actually get tired thigh muscles. And in fact, you can just test yourself whether you're using the right muscles, because if you bend your knees with the knees together, you should notice that the muscles in the front of the legs engage, the thigh muscles. But if you point the knees out, and it's the same when we're in the horse stance, the knees are pointing out slightly, they're not pointing in. You should notice that the muscles, those muscles, same muscles engage, but also the ones next to, on either side of the large thigh muscles, those should engage as well. And this actually gives us extra strength and extra stability. So just actually have a little bit of a try of that yourself, and just feel the difference. Have your knees, we'll start with the knees at a comfortable shoulder width, and if you point your knees inwards, you'll find the legs relax a little bit. If you point the knees out a bit, they should line up with your toes, then you'll feel the extra muscles in your thighs engage.
Are the feet still parallel?
the feet should be parallel, yes, ideally. And even if you can, the toes should point in very slightly. And again, this will feel uncomfortable for some people, but if the toes are pointing out, which is sort of the way how a lot of people would stand, then it makes it more difficult to tuck the tailbone in. If you can have the feet parallel or toes slightly in, then it's much easier to sink that tailbone and easier to engage all the muscles in the legs. All right. So with this movement, yeah, we're sitting in the horse stance. So the muscles are engaged in the legs, tailbone tucked in, stomach tucked in, and the arms relaxed. And we're just in a relaxed way. With this one, we just swing the arms back and forth. And we're also just bobbing up and down a little bit to help the momentum. And winding down. So that one's just to help to relax the shoulders. And we can imagine just sort of allowing the tension just to sort of drop away as we do that movement. All right, pretty simple on that one. So we'll move on to the third one. And this is same stance position. So just checking the posture again, sinking the tailbone, so you can in slightly, engage all the thigh muscles, and this one we're swinging the arms sideways, and we want to impact the body level with the lower ribs. So you have to have sort of loose elbows, and at the front, the hand will impact the lower rib area, and the back hand also at the same level, impacting with the back of the hand level with the lower ribs. So this is to stimulate the kidneys. That's where the kidneys are, just behind our lower ribs. And at the front, we've got our spleen and liver in those areas there. Okay, and we'll do 8 at that height, and then we move on to the front hand coming up towards the shoulder. And sorry, Joe, you're cooling down, are you? I'm doing a lot of.
So good.
I'm doing a lot of talking, I know. And so when we go to the second part where we bring the hand up to the shoulder, the back hand stays at the same level, but the front hand, we want to use the heel of the hand to impact the lung meridian point, which is just below the collarbone and about halfway from the center to the shoulder. So it's about that point there. So we're impacting that point with the heel of the hand. All right, so we'll do that movement starting with the hands level with the lower ribs and yes. And hand up to the shoulder. and winding down. Okay, and we'll move on to the next one, which is called the butterfly. And actually, just before we move on, I'll mention that that last one is also to help us loosen up all the joints in the body, same as the next one as well. But also, this one stimulates obviously the lungs. Sorry, the kidneys, liver, and spleen. Um, the next one stimulate the lungs. These first few movements stimulate all the major organs in the body, so they're very, very useful. And if you're doing any practice at home, if you have time, it's a good idea, it's a good habit to get into, to use these first couple of warm-ups at least um, as part of your routine to help you loosen up and get you ready for your Tai Chi form. All right, so the next one, the butterfly, the same stance applies. We start with the crossing the wrists, and we just bring the hands up over the head, and we try and sort of rotate the hands upwards so that the shoulders and the elbows are back, and we want to have the feeling of opening the chest and opening the upper back. Yeah, and then we do 8 of those, and you'll find your breathing will be naturally going in time with the movement with this one. You'll feel that when you lift your arms, you'll want to breathe in and keep the stomach tucked in so that we're focusing the air expanding in the top part of the lungs. The rib cage should expand sideways as well. And with this one, we also bob up and down a bit. Try and keep the knees off lock, so we don't straighten the knees completely. I've done a few extra ones there just so we get the right feeling. And there's 2 parts to this movement. The second part, we return to the side, but with the second part, we don't bob up and down, only the first part. So once we've done 8 of those, then we will sink back down again, bending the knees, and return to the side, one hand in front, one behind. Then back to the centre, hands up, and then to the other side, back to the centre, and you'll find that your tailbone is in the right position. You will actually get more twisting movement. If your tailbone sticking out, it will restrict the turning movement. That's it. All right, we'll just come back to the centre there and cross the wrists. Any questions about that one? Put the hands down.
So with that one, does it matter which arm is front, right or left, when you're starting the butterfly?
It's not critical, but normally you would start, so we do 8 to the center, and then you would turn, the first one you would turn to the left, and your left hand will go behind. Then when you turn to the right, your right hand will go behind.
Yep. So when you're starting the butterfly, Konrad, are you using right arm over the top on the outside? So when you start the butterfly, is it right on the outside or left?
It would start with your left hand in front.
Right. Yep. You're doing it the wrong way around. Okay.
So it's yeah, I'm not sure if it's clear in the video because I've got my video set to mirror image, plus I'm actually doing mirror image as well. So actually my right hand is in front. It's, it's all a little bit baffling. So I'm not sure what it looks like.
So left hand in front.
Left hand's closest to you.
Correct.
No, right hand's closest to you.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll actually do that one together from the start of that movement. So start with the wrists crossed in front, checking the stance and checking the tailbone is sunk down, stomach tucked in slightly. Okay, you ready? We'll start. And if you lift your hands high up, then you get more expansion of the lungs. And then when turning left this time, stay down.
Oh, sorry for this. Maybe go a bit.
And back to the center, cross the wrists, hands down. And I should also just mention with this one, when we're, with the first part of that one, when we're bobbing up and down a bit, the tendency is to forget about the tailbone, and we end up sticking the tailbone out. So we have to be very conscious, very aware of every time we sink down with the knees, we have to tuck that tailbone in, and it's almost like a feeling of pushing the tailbone down, and technically speaking, we want to actually keep the buttocks relaxed, but we are engaging the pelvic floor muscle, but not tightening the buttocks, to be clear. And that can take a bit of practice isolating the muscles there. So we'll move on to the rotation. So that's the first couple of warm-ups, and that little set, if you can practice that as a warm-up, as that can be like a very short, complete little warm-up that you can use at home if you're pressed for time. All right. So go through the rotations. The first one is the wrist rotation. So we start joining the fingers together, but we keep the palms apart. So not together, keep the palms apart. And then we just roll the wrist. So we turn one in front, and we lift the wrist, roll it, and then lift the other wrist.
Just keeping this elbows down.
And after 8 rotations, we reverse. So lift, turn, lift, turn. Okay, and I'm just going to adjust my screen here. So with the rotations, we just stand normally. We don't have to stand in full stand. So after the rotations, we do the elbow rotation, and this is pretty straightforward. But try and have the hands gripping the chi ball with each hand, so there's a little bit of tension, sort of tension, and then we just circle the hands, making the elbows rotate.
So elbows are just below our shoulders, is that right?
Sorry, say again?
Our elbow positioning is just below our shoulders, there.
Yes, it probably should be actually at shoulder height is even better.
Okay.
I'm probably a bit too relaxed, but yeah, it should be shoulder height. And then after 4 repetitions, then we reverse. I forget which way I started, but anyway, we do 4. We do 4 in each direction. If you've got time, you can do 8, but normally in my classes we do 4.
Just bringing his arms here.
Oh, okay. Getting tired. I know when you do it correct.
Okay, and then arms down, and then we do arm rotations. Now this one, we can put a little bit of internal force into this one, which helps to get more benefit from the movement. So again, we have our hands gripping the chi ball, and we try and we start towards the back. Start with your left towards the back, and we try and extend the arm as much as we can, making the circle as big as possible. And we actually have a feeling of the arm having a little bit of an internal stretching feeling. So it's not just soft and relaxed. There's a sort of an internal extending outwards.
But Konrad, you're not actually taking your arm back as such, are you? Because I can't do that with my shoulders. You're telling me to you turn your body, and so your arm is sort of still in line with the shoulder. Is that right? And then around, or was that just for me so I could cope with my shoulders?
No. Well, when I do it, my torso does turn.
Yes, but
My torso, yeah. I think it's pretty hard actually to go in a straight line, straight back and then straight up. I don't think that's really possible. So yeah, allow your body to turn a little bit, but we just want to try and get as big a circle as we can without straining and without sort of damaging anything, basically.
I think the other thing that you're doing, doing, Konrad, is when you're coming around here, when you come around to this bit, your shoulder is rotating because you're coming through this way, and then your hand's turning that way as you take it up to the back. So that creates external rotation of the shoulder, which opens it up.
Yes, exactly. That's a very good point.
Probably the important bit, yes.
Yeah, I am. So yeah, I'm turning my hand to the palm turning to the side. Yeah, and that does sort of open up that shoulder, and then.
And you kind of have to rotate to do that. If you don't rotate, you get stuck. You get stuck. It doesn't allow the scapula to move. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. So yeah, there is a turning, and that helps with the extension of the arm. And then yes, the reverse happens, of course, when we go backwards. So we start towards the back, we do 4 of those, and then we reverse it. So it's sort of like leading with the back of the hand, but then at the top there, I'm turning the palm, rotating the palm, and then rotating again. So leading with the back of the hand, going up, but coming down, I'm sort of leading with the palm. The palm is the leading part. So then I rotate as I turn. So yeah, that's exactly. They're very observant, Joe. So yeah, the palm does turn to help get the extension and to help engage that also helps to engage the tendons. So we'll do the other side just for the sake of practice and balance. So you open the palm.
So we should be doing our right arm, is that right?
Correct.
Okay, good.
Yeah. You start with your left. And then do 4 of those and then reverse. Okay. And we do start that movement towards the back so that the finishing part, when we are moving the arm backwards, it helps to open the top of the chest. So you should get this feeling of opening the top of the chest as we do this movement. So it's supposed to help open up the top of the lungs as well. So if you can get that feeling as well, that's really good.
It's my favourite one. I love that one.
Yeah, good.
I do it at work. I get out of my desk and I do that at work, and everyone looks at me like I'm mental, but that's okay.
Yeah, well, it really helps to sort of straighten up the back, especially if you're hunched over at the desk all day, then it's definitely a really good one. And again, with this one in the class, we usually just do 4 repetitions. But if you've got time, you can do 8. We don't do it in the class, but you can actually do both hands together or both arms at the same time, which is even more effective. But it's really interesting, Joe, that you mentioned that you like it, because a lot of people actually don't like this one. I think people find it really boring just doing arm rotations or something. And I know some people struggle with doing it slowly. They just get completely bored with it and they don't like it. But
Is that most of the people that do Tai Chi over 45? Most of the people are doing it over 45.
probably yes.
Yeah. So what happens is there's a bit of clinical stuff coming here. What happens is a lot of people have shoulder issues past the age of 45, and so it's forcing them to address those challenges. And so a lot of people just don't have the mobility because they've spent so much time like this or leaning or whatever.
Yes.
And that's why they don't like it. But you know what? We as a thing, we don't lift our arms above our heads, especially as you know, once we get past that age. And it's so important to keep doing those movements.
Exactly. That's absolutely correct.
As an osteopath, I used to give these movements all the time.
Yeah.
Rehab 101. But I'd shorten the lever. I'd shorten the lever to start with. I'd do it laying down, then seated, then standing, and then increase the lever. So yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, but you're right. As the older we get, the tendency is to have trouble with the shoulders, and it's a lot of the times it's usually postural, from just leaning forward like for decades, and everything locks up. It's not supposed to be in that position, and so it can be quite challenging to adjust the posture and this movement can actually be very painful. Actually, it can be very painful. So if somebody watching does have shoulder trouble, you can make smaller movements, but it's really good to try and start doing these movements. But even if it's a very small movement like this, it doesn't have that hand doesn't have to go right up over the head. But if you can work towards that, that would be really good. But it can be challenging. So make the movement small if it's sore, and if it does hurt, then actually you shouldn't do that full movement at all. You should start off with a smaller movement. But let's have a go at doing the both arms together, just so you can feel what it's like, because it's a really good one. We'll start, and again, just do the same rotation with the hands. So we start towards the back. And you will find that the hands move not straight back, but they go out towards the sides. But just go back as far as is comfortable with a little bit of extension.
I want to ride a boat.
Yeah. Feel like I'm in the swimming pool.
And then reverse. Rotate the hands as we go. You'll find that really opens up the top of the chest. Okay, we'll just do 4 of those. You can do 8 if you want. And but it's a very effective exercise. I have had a lot of students over the years actually, after doing this for a while, their shoulders loosen up. They might have had even a locked shoulder, and it loosens up and can actually cure some shoulder problems. It's very common when you start off to have clicking going on when they're rotating. That's completely normal. If you persist with it, then the clicking will go away, and over time the shoulders will loosen up. So it is a really important one, that one. Okay, so moving on, we'll do the waist rotation. So with this one, we have the feet at, again, a comfortable shoulder width, and we sink into the horse stance. So bend the knees a bit, sink the tailbone, and just resting the hands comfortably on the hips. And we take the hips to the side, back, other side, and front. And we try not to dip the head at the front. So I'll just actually point out what we're not supposed to do, because it looks like I'm sort of rotating the top part of my body. Yeah, but that's not the movement. It's actually that the head should stay fairly upright, and we're just rotating the middle part like so. And we do 4 rotations in each direction, so we'll change direction. And back to the center. Okay, and I just noticed that we're running out of time, so we've still got a little couple of minutes. We'll go into the leg rotations, and to do this one, we want to take the weight onto one side and rest the other foot. Rest the ball of the foot on the floor with the other leg, and we do 8 rotations with the ball of the foot gently resting on the floor. Try not to push down with that foot, and then we reverse. And the other side, the tendency is people tend to put weight onto that foot that they're rotating, but try and resist that temptation. So we start with an inward circle. And reverse, and we finish with an outward circle. And we'll change sides, and we're kicking back the heel. Now, just a little bit of detail with this one. We try and keep the knee pointing straight down, so taking weight onto one side and try and balance, support the leg off lock. And we kick the heel towards the base of the spine, towards the center, so it's slightly going from the side towards the center. But try and avoid, like the tendency is to lift the knee, but we want to try and avoid that. So we keep the knee pointing straight down, we're just kicking towards the back. And then the other side, you should notice
that. Ask a question on that one, Konrad. When you're putting your foot back down,
yeah.
So the knee's coming up, and then you put the foot. You're actually putting your foot flat. You're not just going onto the ball of your foot. Is that right?
No, I'm actually. Whoops.
Oops. Hey, be kind to that plant.
Yeah. It's actually sort of the ball of the foot goes down.
Okay.
Not sure if you can see that.
Yeah.
You can see.
The feeling that it's in the front of the leg, aren't we, when we do it? That's where I feel it.
Sorry, Anna, say again.
I feel the tension in the front of my thigh when I do that. Is that right?
That's exactly what's supposed to happen. Yeah, so we're actually, this is loosening the knee, but we're also stretching the thigh muscle with this movement as we do it. So, if you lift your knee, then you don't get that stretching of the thigh muscle. So that's the correct feeling. Yeah, good. So we'll do a couple on the other side as well, just to balance up. We're going to have to wrap it up.
We have a slight bend in the other leg, yeah?
Sorry, say again?
Slight bend in the other leg, like one leg horse stance.
Yes, the support leg should be at least off lock.
Yeah, yeah.
That helps the balance. Yeah, when the legs are locked, if we're trying to balance on a locked leg, it's more difficult. So we'll just have a sip of water. We've managed to fill in the whole hour. It's gone by very quickly. And we're going to have to wrap it up very soon because I've got some more classes to carry on with. So, yeah, just a quick recap. Trying to engage the tendons and open the joints by gripping gently with the hands. And we want to open up, encourage opening up of the top of the chest and also actually opening the groin or rounding the groin. I might talk a bit more about that next week, but this movement with the rotation of the knee, it helps to encourage the rounding of the groin. That means if the knees are not lining up with the feet, we tend to have a V shape in the groin, and we're supposed to have a rounded shape in the groin, which means when we sit on the horse, the knees point out a little bit, line up with the feet, and that rounds the groin. And this is also why the stance is given the name horse stance, because there's actually, a horse's back is round, it's not V-shaped. So, yeah, something to keep in mind there. So, yeah, we definitely have to wrap it up now. And, okay, I just got a message. So, we'll just do the closing form a couple of times to finish with. So, again, with the hands curved, and we'll do this with the feet together, and very similar to that first movement. When we sink down, we need to tuck the tailbone in and open the knees. So we'll do that together. Commence. Just gathering our extended energy, bringing it back to our center. We'll do that 2 times. And then the 3rd time, one more time. Keep the legs straight this time. Locking the chi back into our center. And we'll finish with the Tai Chi salute. Just a reminder of the salute. We have a hollow fist with the right hand, the open palm with the left hand. You join them together. The thumb actually should cover the hollow of the fist. And we have that at about chest height. We just push out a little bit and finish there. Thank you so much for joining in, everyone. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you.
And, I hope that was. I hope that you can use that information to get a lot more out of your exercises. And we'll continue this next week. And also next week I'll be focusing a little bit on how to feel the chi in your hands, because it's not just imaginary, the chi, it's a real thing, and you can all feel it. All right, so thanks everyone, and yeah, have a great week.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Konrad. Nice to see
See you
everybody.
later.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Have a good week, Konrad. Thank you.
Yeah. See you, Annette. Oh man. Oh man. Oh man, this is frustrating. Why doesn't this work? Why doesn't this work?